Hi, welcome to Papa's Workshop. Today I'm making a cat twist pen kit by Penn State Industries. Now this kit was provided to me by Penn State Industries, but the blank is a blank that I made several years ago. So let me show you how I did it today. So let's get started. Today's project that I'm doing is a pen kit by the Penn State Industries. The name of the kit is a cat twist pen kit, and it has the characters of a cat on the pen along with the little paws. I think this is going to be a beautiful kit to be able to turn for a cat lover that this gift is going to. The color that I've chosen for the blank is this beautiful purple color that I actually poured several years ago. And this was the time period when I was using the PVC pipe to be able to pour my blanks. This was long before I was doing the YouTube videos, and I did this without using the pressure pots. So there might be some small air bubbles in this blank. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and cut this blank to length. There's actually two different lengths. I need a 1.6 inch and I also need 1.9 inches. From there, I'm going to go ahead and drill the hole through the blank, and this requires a 10 millimeter bit to do this, and I'm using a brad tip bit. So what I'm going to do is just cut this first end off where it's nice and square, and then I'm going to take the brass tube itself and mark the length. And as you know from the previous videos, I like to make these blanks a little bit long, and then when I square up the ends, that's when I'll get it to the exact length of the brass tubing. I find that using the brass tube to measure the length of the blank is the absolute easiest way to do it, and virtually mistake-free. And you can also see that I'm actually cutting this longer than what it needs to be. When I cut this one, the blank moves just a little bit, so it's not 100% square. So I put a little X on this end, so make sure that I didn't use that one to cut, because that would make the whole drill crooked through it. To be able to mark this center line here that you can see that I've done, I don't have the fancy little squares to be able to do that, to be able to mark the center. But what I do have are two speed squares. This forms the 90-degree angle. And by taking a second speed square and placing it right at this point, that will allow me to create the line that I need just to slip this into position, just like that, and draw my line. And then I can rotate it, slide it into that slot again, and mark it. And that establishes the center point that I need to drill. So this is a very effective way to be able to do it when you don't have the fancy tools. Okay, I've completed the drilling of the holes, and I think that's going to be just perfect. And it worked out almost dead center on each end. So this will give me plenty of room to be able to turn this. Now what I'm going to do next is just go ahead, mix up some epoxy, and glue in these two brass sleeves. Now I'm taking the 5-minute epoxy and pouring out equal amounts onto this aluminum foil, and this makes the cleanup very easy when I'm finished. I'm taking a popsicle stick and mixing part A and part B with this epoxy where it's completely mixed thoroughly. Once it's completely mixed, I'll take the brass tubing and slip it over the end of the awl, and then put the epoxy, a good heavy coat of the epoxy onto the brass tubing. And this is very important to get a good coverage. You do not want to have any places on this tube that does not have the epoxy. Next, I'm going to take the pen blank and slide that brass tube right into the end of it. Now I want to be able to slide this all the way through and actually push it out the other side, because as you slide that tube in, the glue has a tendency to slip off and build up at the end. So I'm going to scrape that off to begin with, and then with the awl, push the brass tubing out the other end, as you can see I'm doing there. And then I'm going to take my popsicle stick and put some additional epoxy on that end. Once that's done, then I'll slide the brass tube back in, and you'll see the excess glue on the end as well. And again, I'm just going to wipe off the excess. Now that the brass tube is in the blank, I'm just going to go ahead and clean up the end and get all the epoxy off of the ends, and try to get any excess epoxy off of the inside of the brass tube. It's easier to get that off now than to have to deal with it later. Then the last thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and center the tube in the blank, set it aside, and let it dry. And then we'll move on to the second blank. Okay, now that both blanks are finished, I'm just going to set them aside and let them dry thoroughly. I like to be able to let them dry overnight, and that makes sure that the epoxy is good and hard. So even though this is 5-minute epoxy, I really like to wait overnight. Now just a little bit of cleanup, put the tools away, and that's going to be it for today. And we'll begin tomorrow with the turning. Okay, it's the next day, and I went ahead and squared up the ends, and I drilled this just to the point of seeing the brass tubing. I wanted to give a quick shot looking at the bushing set that was required for this cat twist pin kit. This bushing set consists of 3 parts, the 2 outer parts and of course the center band. Now on this particular blank, the ends are actually thinner, so it creates a thinner wall on the pin blank as compared to the center. Now this blank is ready to be able to turn, and I'm using the carbon tip tools to be able to turn this. This is the easiest way to use these tools to be able to cut a very fine, smooth finish, even before begin sanding. So I really love these carbide tip tools, and these tools are something that I actually made some time ago. Now I started off at a slow speed turning this, and then as I went ahead and got it round, I increased the speed. Now this lathe only has 4 speeds, and is based on the pulley system. The lowest speed was 875, and then it goes up to approximately 3200 RPM. What I love about turning this material is it takes a very light touch of the tool to the blank, and it makes a very smooth finish. So that makes it where it requires a minimum of sanding to be able to get a super fine, smooth, high gloss finish. To begin the sanding process on this particular blank, I'm starting at 220 and then working up from there all the way up to the 12,000. Because this blank was so smooth to begin with, I did not need to start down at the 60 or the 80 grit. Now I'm using a wet sanding to be able to do this, and it's cleaning it up very quickly. I love this process. Now that the sanding is completed, I'm using the headlight protectant to be able to polish this blank. I have found that this works very well. Now, I have used this headlight protectant for quite some time, and I find it very effective. If it's strong enough and hard enough to be able to protect the headlights from the abuse that the headlights will take, it certainly will protect the pins for daily use. Now it's time to assemble the pin, and one of the things that happened that I didn't realize it is that the battery died just as I was starting to assemble the pin, so I did not get the full assembly. But I have shown on a number of occasions how the pins assemble, and this one is really no different. I lay out the parts to begin with and then assemble each section so I don't make a mistake. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also, check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.